Righto guys, so I've roughly worked out what I've got to do to make this jaw crusher. I've drawn up some pretty dodgy designs, much like everything else I do. So I've brushed off this steel using this absolute death trap. Have a look at it. I've brushed up the steel all nice. I've measured out 4 lengths of 450. I need 5 lengths of 200, and then I need 2 lengths of approximately 900 as a base. So I'll start cutting that now, which is going to take a while because it's nice thick steel. Once she's all cut up, we'll be able to start putting it together and welding it up. Well, I think I'm going to go and get the 240 volt grinder because I can't just keep putting my Milwaukee batteries in the fridge to cool them down because they're quite hot. It's pretty hot here today and I need that room for beer, so I'll go get the big one. Alright, I just fired up the Jenny. A bit better. Get your money's worth out of your discs, eh? I'm going through about 1 disc per cut. So I'm going to go through a few discs. Finally done. So I got 2 at 900, I got 4 at 450, I got 5 at 200, and then I've got this spare length, which I don't know what length I'm going to need it yet, but that'll actually be the swinging jaw. So not too bad, took a little while. Went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cut-off wheels. So very good. And I lined all these up on top of each other, and surprisingly they were all really, really close. So that's going to make welding and grinding everything a lot easier. It's always handy when it comes together as a plan. What are you doing, mate? Hey! What's going on? Alright, see ya. And there's all of our steel. Now it doesn't look like much at the moment, but bear with me for a sec. Does that look a little bit more like a jaw crusher now? So stationary jaw plate will go in here. So there'll be another plate that goes on it, 10 or 16 mil. There'll be another plate that bolts this one obviously because this is our moving jaw. And then I've left a 10 mil gap down each side to put a 10 mil wear plate in there as well. So that's basically the design. This is too long, I still need to cut that to whatever the length needs to be, but motor will sit down there. Got some 6 mil plate to weld onto that. So it'll bolt on. It's got a reduction box on it. It's just a petrol motor onto a wheel up here with a eccentric shaft, and then yeah, the jaw will move up and down basically in that direction. crushing rock till it all falls down the bottom. It's starting to come together though, isn't it? So of course the flush side here will be the internal. So I have ground these welds back a bit. Not that they really needed it, because this sort of recesses a little bit. So they probably wouldn't have been in the way, but I will have to put a 10mm wear plate flush up against the inside of each side here. So I just thought I'd do it properly. Not bad welding for a Sparky. Got to weld these two there, and then I'll do the one right at the end over there. Oops, over there. And then I should be able to sit the other half of the jaw on top of all this to get it nice and parallel, and then do a few tacks, flip it over and do some more welding that way. She's coming together. Lots of prep work, of course. I've been told it's a bit like painting, welding. The better you prep, the better your finished product. Ooh. Definitely looking like a jaw crusher now. Nice thunder out there today again. Now the welds aren't anything great, but they'll hold. I'm very happy. Got the motor base plate down. Got the motor sitting in place, and did a little bit of math last night so I could work out my speeds and everything. This is a 1:6 reduction box, so assuming I'm running it between 250 to 2800 RPM on the motor, it's going to give me roughly, with the pulleys that I bought, driver pulley 63mm and driven pulley 180, it should give me around about 170 RPM at the flywheel. So we've got these plates here, which are BIS 400 wear plates. They'll go in each side and then each face of the moving and stationary jaw. We've got our eccentric shaft made up, which turned out beautiful. Thank you so much to Cotto from Blue Arc Engineering. You're an absolute champion. I'm so happy with it. And blew a heap of money on some really nice bearings and housings and such. So she's all starting to come together. This is what I'm going to use for a toggle. You have no idea how long it took me to cut that up with a 5-inch grinder. But that'll be the toggle for the bottom of the moving jaw. Should work a treat. So now, before I go attaching anything else, the motor isn't attached either, but before I go attaching anything else, I'm going to have to put this in the back of the car and take it up to the crushing plant. And then once it's up there, I'll be able to start putting things together a bit more, because as it is, I won't be able to lift this. So I'm going to have to roll it and then flip it into the back of the car and then flip it out to get it up there. So I don't really want to be adding any more weight at this stage, but it's definitely coming together. Right, it's gonna work. Back up at the plant. I've just been grinding down this bit of steel here, which forms our fixed jaw, and I'm probably going to have to do the same with this one because I have slightly mismeasured the width that I needed these bits of metal to be apart, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we'll make it work. So I've just got a jack in there at the moment, putting a little bit of pressure on it because our bits of Biz 400 are also slightly bent, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but that's all right. That's how she comes off the CNC plasma, isn't it? So I've just filed it down a bit and we should be able to hit this in now. Geez, tell you what, might need to grind a little bit more off that. Let's try and bang that in again. Tell you what, that ain't coming out for a long time. But on the plus side, now I'm not going to bolt this in or anything either. All I'm going to do is run a couple of stitches of weld, top and bottom. And if I got to replace them, all I got to do is cut it nice and flush with this and it'll pop out. It saves a lot of work doing the whole bolt thing. And especially having bolts against each of your front and back faces, it affects things unless you recess them. And the steel isn't thick enough to recess them, obviously. However, it is thick enough to last a long time if you can find another way around the bolts. You'll notice here the welder isn't running quite as well. The generator up at the crushing plant's 3-phase, so I couldn't put as many amps into the welder as what I needed, unfortunately. Yeah, so 90 amps, not great. 100 amps, a lot better. 110 would be better, but it's all right, it'll do. Jeez, this thing's getting heavy. Not the best, but it'll work, it'll work. Stitch either side there in the middle so that this plate can't rise out of it. And I think we're sweet. Time to put the swinging jaw in. Well, as suspected, I've just gone to put the moving jaw in. And we're a bit tight. I wanted this to be close. I wanted to have good tolerance, but yeah, maybe a little bit too close there. So I'm gonna have to grind down the sides of this a bit. It won't take much. It's like a matter of 3/4 of a millimeter sort of thing. So we want it loose enough to be able to swing freely in there, but not that loose that it bashes around and makes a lot of noise. So I'll start grinding. Well, I've just spent 3 5-amp-hour Milwaukee batteries grinding this thing back on both sides, and it's still too tight. So I think it's going to take a hell of a lot of grinding to make that fit, and then it's still going to be pretty tight. There's going to be a really close tolerance there, which means that thermal expansion might also be an issue if I get hot weather. Well, at least you know I'm having a go. Oh, it's still too hot. Well, things didn't quite go to plan there. These plates were cut at 180mm wide, and I knew it was going to be tight, and I thought if I leave it tight and then I grind it back just a tiny bit, I'll get a nice snug fit. But I ended up having to take off a lot more than what I thought. So I've taken 1mm off each side. So between the two wear plates here is actually, yeah, 178, not 180mm. But anyway, it was a long, grueling task, but we're in there now and we're sitting very flush. Which means now I've just got to work out that jaw. New ripper. We'll clamp these in together, grind that out, and then we'll get a good run on the bottom end on the top. Grind out a bit of this and get some nice beads on in that gap as well. Good enough. Also good enough. Maybe just do a couple more through here, I reckon. This sucker's getting heavy. Geez, we got a nice fit in there, guys. Right, just flip him back up the right way. That's really good swarf. I've got a 15mm here, which was actually the biggest twist drill that I had, aside from hole saws. It's old, and it might need a sharpen, but we'll see how we go. Yeah, it needs a sharpen. Yeah, not great. I don't know what type of, well, it's just high-speed steel, but man, that is hard stuff. So I'll have to spend a bit more time on this drill bit, because it's obviously a good one. Would have been one of my old man's ones, I reckon. And we're through. All making sense? Now we got these here, just to strengthen it up a bit as well. You ripper. Let's get this shaft in. Way too smooth. It's awesome. Ooh, we're on. Let's get those grub screws nipped up. Now that these brackets are tightened in place as well, I'm just going to run a bead of weld along the back here after I clean that paint and rust off on each bit, just so it's, you know, extra reinforced, obviously. Less room for movement. Welding wasn't quite as pretty on this part. I've just added the toggle cup there. Just nip up this shaft. Quite a few hot parts here, so I'm trying not to hurt myself. Put my gloves back on. I get the feeling this jaw is going to be a bit wide, but I'm going to try it there anyway. And I mean, if worse comes to worse, I'll just have to move it forwards a little bit more, won't I? Drill some more holes and move the motor forwards a little bit as well. That's all right. I'm going to try and keep it as reasonably open as possible, because the bigger stuff I can put in it, the better, really. So story of my life, eh? Righto. She's on, she's on. It's all the grubbies done up. So here's our toggle, which will still work with the way that I've made that. So basically it'll just sit down right in that corner there. And then I'm going to use this bit here, somewhere down in there. So at the top end of this, so bottom end points into there, top end of this will sit up in this corner here somewhere. And I should be able to, or maybe a bit more like that, and I should be able to have a couple of adjustment bolts here on top that I can wind in and out to make this come backwards and forwards. Open and close the actual output of the jaw. Cheers, everyone. Friday Arvo. Hard at it. Alright, well that's one times dodgy but hopefully durable toggle. Something like that. Nothing's still very hot. Toggle assembly is in. So, probably not lit the best in there, but this just holds it in place. These two bolts are to adjust it, two nuts on them to lock it into place, springs to keep the bottom of the jaw pulled back against the plate. So, happy with that. Time to cut out the motor mount. Righto, motor's up there. So let's get out wee little 63mm taper lock pulley. give these a stab. See how I went with my length here, because things have changed. Yes, they have. Ugh. It's close, but it'll work. Would have been nice to have a little bit more room in there, so when I swap out these bolts, when I swap out these belts one day, I'll get some longer ones so I can move the motor back a bit further. Looking good though. Bit rough on the cutting this time of night, but I'm gonna have to try and flip this thing around as well, because I want it to be facing this way for me to be able to use it until I figure out exactly where I'm going to set it up. And I probably want to do that before I put the motor on, because it's already getting extremely heavy. Extremely heavy. I got it. Engine mount bolts are on, belts are on, nice and tight. Everything's looking really good. We are nearly ready to fire it up and give it a test. Except I'm just going to run a strip of weld along that bit of metal and on the other side, and then around the back as well. Because I know that this thing without a flywheel, it's probably going to shake like hell, even though it's set at a bit of a lower speed than most of them. So it really needs to be fixed down to something. That whole frame's going to move enough as it is, so we don't want this moving on top of it. That later. Righto, let's do it. Let's fire this thing up. After starting the engine, giving it a bit of a run, having a look at the speed and chucking a couple of small rocks in to test, I came to the conclusion that it wasn't going quick enough. So I swapped out the driven pulley for a smaller one. The smaller one brings me to a speed of around about 270 RPM instead of around about 160. I reckon I could have used a little bit more throw on the eccentric shaft. Maybe instead of 10mm difference, 15. Would have given me a 30mm throw instead of a 20. That was an absolute piece of cake. Wow. If I wasn't playing around and watching it and filming and doing all that sort of stuff, they would have gone through in less than 10 minutes, all of them. So, whew, she works pretty well. I could probably close it up just a little bit more though. Doesn't need much. Just so I get a slightly smaller size. Everything here will still fit in the impact mill, but seeing as the jaw crusher is so quick and efficient anyway, we may as well get it a little bit smaller, I reckon. And some nice stuff in here too. Let's fire up the plant.